In this lesson, we will talk about the cable cast on. It begins with a slip stitch, and again you'll have your loose yarn tail at the right, and the end that goes to the yarn ball will be on the left. You'll begin 6 to 8 inches into the yarn, and you will make your slip stitch there. Okay, so to make the slip stitch, wrap the yarn around your fingers. It will go over the top of the end that goes to the yarn ball. Then take that strand and go behind the loop, and then take your knitting needle, insert it under the strand, and pull it through. One more time. Loose yarn in, attached yarn in. Wrap it around your fingers, over the top of the end that goes to the yarn ball. Take the strand behind the loop. Insert your needle under the strand and pull it through. Now push that up tight. Now the cable cast on requires 2 needles. I happen to be using a circular needle, but there's no reason why that this couldn't be done on straight needles. They were doing this on straight needles before circular needles came into being. So to begin, to cast on the second stitch, you'll go from the left of the front loop of the stitch into the stitch and out the back. And then you'll do a yarn over, and you'll go under the needle and then over the needle, and then bring that yarn through, pull it kind of loose there, and then place that stitch onto the left hand needle. Then before we pull this tight, we'll stick our needle between the stitches, under and over for our wrap. Pull the yarn through, pull that loose, place that stitch on the needle. Insert our needle between the stitches, do our yarn over, under and over, pull the yarn through, pull that stitch loose, and then place the stitch on the needle. Now when I first learned how to do the cable cast on, I learned to do it in a different manner that I'm showing you here. This way is covered in the Principles of Knitting, and I'll show you now how I learned how to do this. The same thing where you insert your needle between the stitches, you go under and over for your yarn over and pull that stitch through. Now here's the difference. The way I was showing you before, you go from left to right to place that new stitch on the needle. But how I was taught was you actually twist the stitch and go from right to left and place that stitch on the needle. And then again, put your needle between your stitches before you pull that nice and snug. Pull that through, pull a nice loop, right to left, pull it on down, insert your needle. I'm not real sure what the benefits of one fashion over the other is. I suspect that the twisting may actually give this a little more, I don't know necessarily that it would give it more give, but it might give it a little more space, to allow more space between the stitches. This cast on is not as stretchy as the long tail cast on, and therefore it can, have the tendency to be too tight. Say if you had a cast on at the neck of a sweater, and if you cast on too tight, you might not even be able to get your head in the sweater. And if you've ever tried to put a sweater on a child where it was too tight, that can get pretty ugly. So here again, you need to make sure that you're getting a nice even loops at the bottom. This kind of looks like it's going in maybe here because this might be where I changed. I'm not sure. That this may be where I changed. But it has a nice edge. That I will say that for the cable cast on, it really does give it a nice edge, but it does have a tendency to be too tight. So again, you want to make sure everything's nice and even. And I personally don't have a lot of luck with this cast on. One, I think it takes longer to do, and two, I believe that it's more difficult to get a nice even cast on and have that pretty edge along there. I guess especially if if you're going along there and casting on a lot of stitches and not really paying that much attention. But that's another alternative for a cast on. And while I'm here doing this, I'll go ahead and cover the knit cast on. In the beginning, when we started the cable cast on, we inserted our needle from the left to right and came out the back of the stitch instead of going between the stitches. Well, a knit cast on, that's exactly what that one does. It just goes within the stitch from the left and comes out the back, wrap in the same manner and pull that through, and then I suppose you could either place it like that and then insert your needle back into that stitch for another one. This one kind of feels like it has it's quite a bit looser, so maybe this might be a better alternative. But this is not a cast on that I've ever actually used before, so I can't really speak a lot to the benefits and the pros and the cons of it, I guess. I'm not sure if how this one would work if you actually twisted that stitch like we were doing before on that cable cast on. Let me see how it looks. I can't really see any difference between the two. So I actually like the way that one looks better. It looks like it's already giving you a row of knitting. So that might be a better alternative as opposed to the cable cast on. So there you go. Cable cast on and knit cast on.